Hey there, my name's Mary Sheila Ganella, and I am a nutrition practitioner. And I have been a practitioner for about 20 years now. Holistic nutrition, Ayurveda, I'm all about hormonal health and circadian rhythms. And I wanted to talk about building and maintaining muscle and how important that is. And here's why I'm making this video right now. And that is because when I see clients and students and my patients at the clinic, I always ask them about exercise. And a lot of people say, oh yeah, I have weights or I have a membership at the gym, but they're not really taking the action. And I know, like, when you go traveling, it's sometimes the first thing that falls off. It's like, oh gosh, I got to get back into my exercise. And oh my God, it's been 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Walking is great, running is great, riding your bike is great, but swimming is great, but lifting weights, it's not just a bro thing anymore. It's really how we age without being frail. We don't want to be frail older women and men as we age. We want to age with strength. So this is my PSA to really get you to see muscle as an organ of longevity. It is so important that we build strength because it's going to help us with our posture, our bone health, even just our coordination and that, the nerve signaling throughout the body just to be coordinated and balanced. It is so important. And it's also really important metabolically. So let me just share some of the reasons why. And here's what I want you to do is just put on your beginner's hat. And if you kind of feel like maybe you know some of these things, ask yourself, are you doing them? And if you are doing them and you do know these things, let it just empower you and inspire you to, maybe lift heavier and maybe do something more frequently or mix it up a little bit, right? Because it is so important. Or share this with a friend who might really benefit from hearing the why, that you're like, gosh, I just wish my good friend took her exercise more seriously and really understood how important it is, because it really, really is. So, we often think about exercise and building muscle, right? We all want to have good biceps and triceps and all that kind of stuff. And that I'm a work in progress too. I'm working out more than I have been for the last few years. I did just get back from a big trip, so I'm getting back into it, just like everybody else I know. That always happens. Building muscle is metabolic, it is protective, and it is essential for longevity. When we are muscular, when we have good muscle tone, we don't have to be, super muscular, but when we have good muscle tone and strong muscles and a good core, that is going to give us more of a prediction of our independence. How long are we going to be independent? Of our fall risk. And then, if we do get sick, or hurt ourselves, it's going to help us with our recovery from any kind of illness or surgery that we might have. And it's also a predictor of our overall lifespan. Super important. So again, think of it as your organ of longevity. When we think about building muscle, we think about movement, but one of the things is just how metabolically important it is. Muscle improves our insulin sensitivity. So if you notice, I'm starting to get insulin resistance, or my A1C is high, or my fasting glucose is high, the more muscle on your body, the more you're going to be able to lower those numbers and be metabolically healthy. And that means a lot to brain health, to bone health, to cardiovascular health, to immune health, to every kind of health there is, really, because our metabolism is such at the root of how every cell even metabolizes. So when we have good blood sugar control, we are able to take in the glucose from the foods that we eat. So our cells are able to utilize that as energy, and we have energy. And we're also able to store that energy as glycogen. So we have a reserve. So if we go a little longer without eating, or even in the middle of the night, it's going to help us continue and maintain that good blood sugar control. And it also is going to help us to sleep better, and we're not going to be waking up as much. When muscles contract during exercise, they release something called myokines, which are like little anti-inflammatory signaling molecules. So it really does help us with insulin sensitivity, with inflammation, and it really supports communication, because again, a good metabolism also means there's good communication between all the different cells in the body. And again, when that communication is there, when that insulin sensitivity is there, and we really can take in the glucose, then we reduce the risk of type 2 diabetes. So if it's in your family, muscle is your metabolic support system. We also reduce the risk of cardiovascular health and cognitive decline. So if any of those things are what you've seen in your grandparents, your parents, your aunts, and your uncles, then having the muscle base is going to support you in having a healthy metabolism and protect you from those issues that can happen as we age. So you can think of muscle as your metabolic savings account. Build it now, it's going to serve you for years to come. One of the things that can happen as we age is something called sarcopenia. And it kind of happens all the time. And I would say every decade, we might lose between 3 to 8% of our muscle mass. It starts probably 30s, 40s, 50s, and it kind of declines. However, even looking at that ratio of 3 to 8, it can happen a lot less if we are actively doing things to build muscle. This happens as a natural part of aging because we have reduced protein synthesis as we age. Our body is just less efficient at building muscle, meaning we just need stronger signals. So sometimes that might mean that we might need to eat more protein, which I'll talk about in a little bit down in this video. We also have our hormone shifts as we go through midlife and menopause and andropause. So we have less estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and that's going to affect our muscle tone, and it's going to lower our muscle mass in the body. A lot of times people move less. Sometimes people think they're moving more, but they might be more sedentary, a little more sitting around, a little more laying around, more working, more computer, all that kind of stuff. Some people are just not getting enough protein. Now, protein has been trending lately. A lot of people are talking about protein, but it really is important that we're getting enough protein with each meal. And again, I will talk about that soon. And if you are somebody that has chronic or low-grade inflammation, this can definitely affect how your body is able to utilize the protein that you're eating and turn it into us, because that's basically what protein becomes. And then this is another important piece, is when we build muscle, we are protecting and supporting the bone. Like, think about every bone is wrapped in muscle. So when we are actively working to engage our muscle, that energy is also going into the bone. It's helping to strengthen the bone. It's helping to send nutrients and signaling, and just even what we do when we work out and the pressure that's on the bone, that's going to help it to strengthen. So it is so important. I talk to people all the time, and they're just trying to do everything they can for their bone. And a lot of times they realize, I think the hidden link for me is that I haven't been doing resistance training, and I just started doing it. I'm working with a trainer. It doesn't have to be every single day. You don't even have to work with a trainer. You just want to do it safely. And if you've never done it before, that's Ziggy. Then you have to make sure that you're just doing, you don't want to hurt yourself, right when you start doing it, and all of a sudden you can't do it because you've hurt yourself. I've been working with somebody recently, a young guy, and he, was just kind of doing two main things, like bicep curls and push-ups. And I kept saying, I actually did a workout yesterday and I'm like super sore all down here. I don't even know what muscle that is. So the more you target all the different muscles of the body, more you're targeting the muscles of the body and you're strengthening them, and you're also targeting your bone structure as well. So bone is just key. The more we contract our muscles, the more we're stimulating bone formation. It's really that simple and that important. And I mentioned this earlier, and before I talk about nutrition for building muscles, I just want to say the nervous system, as we age, right? Sometimes the signaling is off. However, strength, it's not just muscle, it's really about coordinating and signaling. And so, sometimes the signaling between the brain and the muscle connection, it can decline with age. So the more we move, the more we're moving, the stronger we are. We have better reaction time, we have better balance, we have better confidence in movement. And that's important. That's really important. I'll never forget hearing somebody say years ago in a movement little video that I watched, and he was saying, independence and movement, like think about even just sitting down on a toilet and being able to get back up. Like that is so important for bone health as well. Muscle health, bone health, muscle health, kind of all one and the same. So when we talk about making sure you're getting the right nutrients, that's a big conversation, but ultimately you do want to kind of focus in on your protein because those are our building blocks. And if you start lifting some weights, if you start doing that, you're going to start to need more protein to actually build those muscles. So what I like to say is when you eat a meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, aim for between, I'm going to give kind of a big range, 20 to 40 grams of protein in those meals. Now, why the big range? Well, because you might be 5 foot and 100 pounds, and you also might be 5'8" and 200 pounds, so we're all different. So we have to kind of assess it a little bit on our own. How do we get there? But ultimately, if you aim for at least 20 grams of protein per meal, and I have a great protein cheat sheet, you can grab it below. And I also have a great bone health handout you can grab below too. Let's stay connected. Subscribe to this video. Let's stay connected because there's a lot to say, and I'm a good teacher. That's my superpower. Talking nutrition for 20 years. But if you aim for 20, 30, 35 grams of protein at each of your meals, you're going to easily get close to 100 grams. That's a great goal for, I would say, most of us. And it doesn't need to be just meat. It doesn't need to be just plants. I think we should be reminded that we are omnivores. We evolved eating all kinds of foods. There's all these different trending fad diets. And if you just think about what our ancestors ate, they did eat meat, they did eat eggs, they did eat dairy, they did eat plant foods. So, you also might want to see what your ancestors ate, but just eat variety. I mean, of course, you can eat vegetarian, you can eat, you can just stick to one couple foods, but mixing it up and having variety is key. So the protein is key. Of course, other foods are going to be key too, healthy carbohydrates, lots of fiber, and healthy fats. But ultimately, if we just kind of think about every time you have a meal, what is my protein? And can I get 20 to 30 grams there? The mosquitoes have just come out. Okay, so that's what I have for you today. I do have a couple handouts if you're interested in the protein cheat sheet and the 5 hormones that are really important to know about when it comes to bone health, since I mentioned bone health here too. Thank you for watching. Such important stuff. I'd love to hear what any things that you like to do when it comes to working out. And I'm just going to tell you, for me, I kind of live rurally, as you can see. This is my backyard, and I used to go to some classes, but I just find if I get up in the morning and I lay my workout clothes out and I put them on and I make my hot lemon salt water, and sometimes I make my coffee, so it's my prize when I'm done exercising, and I just go and I do my weights and I do videos. Those work for me. Sometimes they're a half an hour, sometimes they're 45 minutes. And it targets, lower body, some of the upper body, another part of the body, another part of the upper body. Like it just kind of rotates through the week. And I don't do it every single day. I probably average 3 to 4 times a week. And that really works for me. And if I do it first thing in the morning, then I'm like, I did it. Anything else I do is a bonus because my days get busy. My days get away from me. So that's when I schedule my workout. So you have to schedule your workout when it works for you. And I do think, though, sometimes those things we really want to make sure we get done, if we can start our day with them, boom, that's a great way. But, everybody has to do what works for them. And, just find a consistent pattern, way to do it. I mean, I'll admit, when I first started lifting weights, I would kept touching my iPad screen to see how much more time. And now I feel, actually, I really enjoy it. It doesn't feel as long. And I've graduated, I'm all the way up. I only do a few things with my 25-pound weights, but I'm all the way up to 25 for a couple things. And I still, revert to my 5s and 8s sometimes, my 10s and 15s and 20s. So, I've just grown into it, where I started with maybe just 1 or 2 weights. Now I have a few different kinds, and I even have a bench. It's just fun. It's fun to be able to do stuff. Okay, that is my PSA. And because when I talk to people all the time, they just say, oh yeah, I have the weights, I have the gym membership. Take action, use it. Your body will thank you. Longevity, vitality, health, that is your ally to living your best life. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Make sure you subscribe, share this with a friend, and have a great day.